Hello everybody, welcome back to my blurred opinion. Hope you're all doing well, and if not, please hang in there and find someone to confide in. And forgot I don't have my phone on silent here, so I better do that before I get to this interview now, shall I? Shall we? Bullet is Bullet? Nope, he wants to stay sleeping. He heard me, I know he did. His hearing is way too good. Oh, there it goes again. So I play this dice game on my phone. No, it's not for any money or anything. This isn't some like thing in the hood where we're playing dice on the corner. There's a dice game where they kind of made it for visually impaired and blind people. And yes, that is my fountain going off for Bullet's fountain. So just so you know that no one's peeing. But yeah, so they have 6 games: Farkle, which a lot of people have heard of; Yahtzee, which a lot of people have heard of; and then there's 4 other ones called Balut, which is like a more intense version of Yahtzee. There's like 13 rounds or something like that. I think 13, yeah, of Yahtzee. There's 28 in Balut. Then there's 3s and 1, 4, 24, which are like pretty much mirror opposites of each other. One's about getting the lowest score, and the other one's about getting the highest score. And then there's another one called Pig. They're all very fun. If you're visually impaired and blind out there, you should try it. It's very blind friendly. But even if you're not, it's a very good fun game, and you play people all over the world and whatnot. I'm in the top 100. I used to be in the top 17, and I took like 3 years off. So yeah. Anyway, very good game. Just food for thought out there. Again, want to follow me on TikTok or Instagram? It's at My Blurred Opinion. I talk about all kind of other things. But let's get into this great guest, shall we? Yoo-hoo! Hey everybody, we are back. Forgive me, I'm a little sleepy today. It's just a long day at work, but I'm excited to get into this episode because this is, as her and I discussed off, I don't want to say off air, but whatever you want to call it. We discussed just about healing, and it's something that's really important to me because something I haven't been able to do, and you would think I would have from all the things I talk about. And, so much has happened, and sometimes you just don't ever give yourself enough time to heal because life just continues to keep moving. And, again, you just don't have the time a lot of times, unfortunately. But this is a person who has a story in overcoming and has been through a lot and is going through her own journeys of healing, and now is helping others heal. So would you say hello, and would you like to tell us your name and just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. My
Sure.
name is Phyllis, and I have been a psychotherapist for over 30 years. And I had my own, motivation actually for going into the field of psychology, which was I had my own traumas in childhood. I was molested when I was a little girl, and I really had buried all those memories. And so I didn't really know what this thing was that was affecting my life so deeply until I became an adult and began to kind of uncover. I started to have some memories when I was in my 30s, and then I finally went to therapy and did a very deep dive journey into what had happened to me and the effects on my life that it had. My feelings of unsafety, my feelings of blaming myself, of feeling like there was something just intrinsically flawed in me, and then realizing that that's not true, that we are not what happened to us. We're not, we're not a reflection of how other people have treated us. There's an essence in each person. And I think my own journey of recovery really helped me get in touch with my own essential self and begin to express that more and more in the world. And it was quite a journey. It was difficult in some ways, and it was incredible. I would never advocate don't do it because there can be some difficult moments, because all the difficult moments of sort of, uncovering and working through some of the pain that gets buried are worth the freedom and the connection to oneself that are possible on the other side. And I think that was what my journey really allowed me to experience. And it changed a lot of things in my life. I left a dysfunctional marriage. I eventually married someone wonderful who was, a partner in healing and growth with me. Um, and I wrote some books because I've always been a writer, and writing has been one of the ways that I connect to my essential self. So I wrote 2 books about my healing journey called A Light in the Darkness and Into the Fire. But my latest book is really what I'm focused on, and it's called America in Therapy. And the reason why I wrote this book is because out of my own journey and out of being a psychotherapist for so many people, individuals, children, families, couples, I realized that family dynamics play a part everywhere we go, not just in our family of origin. That in a business, there's a dynamic that mirrors a family dynamic. People in charge, people who have to, follow where they're told to go. People who dominate, people who have to, be subservient in some way. And those dynamics can either be healthy or not. You can have a healthy parent who directs their child in a way that's very loving and kind and helpful, or you can have a parent who's abusive and dominating and denying or alienating or hurtful, physically or sexually hurtful. And the same is true in all of our group dynamics, whether it's a business or a house of worship or a state government or a federal government. So I began to see that what I call the family of America operates on family dynamics as well. And I could see that a lot of those dynamics are not healthy. That many people are targeted in our country, just like an abusive parent might target one child or target a spouse. Many people are withheld from. Many people are seen and judged as inferior. And many people are assaulted, whether it's verbally or physically or sexually or politically or racially or economically or however you want to describe it. And I wanted to really look at what goes on in our country through the lens of what we know makes a healthy family and what makes a dysfunctional family and what makes an abusive family, and then take everything I learned about how to heal on a family level, on an individual and a family level, and apply those principles to America and what that would look like if we could actually use the best of what we know from psychology to heal our human relations in this country. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I'll let you go from there.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm so happy. I love when people, again, I've stated this so many times, but someone, they take their pain and they turn it into something positive because, when you're able to do that, like you said earlier, it's definitely a real sign of it's healing, but it's just so therapeutic to just turn it all around. And it's because a lot of times you can only see one outcome, and then you venture out and you come out of your shell, out of your comfort zone, and all of a sudden there are more possibilities on the table, and you're like, wow, what is this? I never thought this could ever happen. And
that is so true.
Yeah.
And I feel like what you're saying is such a testimony to we really need each other to heal.
Oh yeah.
I think there's a rare person who maybe does a certain part of their healing journey by themselves. And certainly there is a part that you do by yourself. But we really need each other. And part of what we need each other for is exactly what you just said, which is the inspiration that it can be done. I mean, I know that when I started my own healing journey, I actually really didn't think it was possible. I didn't think I would ever come out of the dark feelings that I was living in. And because I was able to do that with a lot of help and a lot of inner work, I could genuinely presence that for people that I work with. I know you can come out the other side. I know it's possible. And I've had many clients over the years who I think held on to, having someone say that as their lifeline. And we need each other for that. And it's a beautiful thing. So I just want to emphasize.
No, yeah, for sure. No, I've always been more about community, people being together. That's the biggest problem I think with society is a lot of times everyone just wants to be on their own, or just a
Yeah.
part of their small little family. But at the end of the day, like we really do need each other. I don't care gender, race, whatever. We really do need to support each other, and a lot more problems would be solved. I always had this like idea of if someone goes missing, like everyone just opens their home up and just says, here. Obviously,
Right.
we can't just trust the
Right.
government to just be genuine and honest, but I'm saying if there was some way everyone could just be transparent and honest with everyone and just say, hey, there's a kid missing. Hey, here, look in my house. They're not there. Okay.
Right.
And then we all
Right.
go looking for that kid, and eventually that kid will be found because we know there's 5,000 people in town and 499 of them are sitting right here. So we know who
Right.
the problem is. But one of the things you were saying early on that really struck with me is like therapy was very instrumental in me becoming who I am. I didn't know it until later because I used to kind of try to encapsulate my life into these small moments. But when I started to like spread it out, I started to find like real contrition and everything because it was like, oh, like there's some real issues that I've tried to just smoothen out and they don't go away. And I've
Right.
always talked about like the closet where you just continue to just fill your closet. You're just hoarding your problems.
Right.
And then eventually
Right.
one day you go to open it to throw another problem in there and then they all fall all over you. And you're just laying there like, where the hell do I begin? Because I have this
Right.
problem and that problem. And because you just never dealt with any of it. And for a long
Exactly.
time, you were able to just jam that door shut, put something in front of it, whatever, to keep the door from opening. And now this door refuses to close. And now you have to deal with all of it at the same time. And then you have nowhere to begin. And when I started to just kind of tackle certain issues in therapy, I was like, oh, I have to open myself up. You really want to know everything. It's like you're asking me stuff
Right.
about my father. You're asking about my sex life. You're asking about just everything. And I'm just like,
Totally.
oh, okay, well, okay, my sex life. Why do you care about that? And then it's like, oh, you want to get into, oh, yeah, maybe I was touched. Oh, yeah, I was touched when I was in my 20s. I never thought, when I was young. And I'm now thinking about it because I buried it. And I'm learning about it more in my 20s.
Right.
And oh yeah, you did go through this, and oh yeah, not only were you bullied, and you kind of mimicked a lot of things that people said. You repeated certain things that people put you down with, and that's how you lived your life. You sat there and just said, oh yeah, you are no good. Oh yeah, you are blind or visually impaired, and yeah, you can see some, but you're useless, and yeah, you couldn't work, and yeah, you can't do that, and you're just repeating all these other things that people beat into your head that shouldn't have.
Right.
But you're doing this to yourself now. You can't blame these people. These are
Right.
years
Right.
past, and you're just doing all this internal damage to yourself. And now you're on suicide watch because now you hate your life and you're depressed, and everybody you see around you is happy, you want to burn their houses down, metaphorically. Like you want to hurt them because now you're
Mm.
hurting. And I became, and that's when I really started to get like a psychiatrist and think about medication, because I started to think, and I've talked about this very honestly, but I've talked about just seeing like a pretty girl to go, she'll never want me. Maybe I should rape her. And again, I would never do it, but it was just the thought that scared me, because I'm like, now my innocence is gone. Now I'm just this evil person inside, or at least that's what it seemed at the time. And it's like, I don't think I have that innocent TJ anymore who's just laughing and smiling, even with the vision problem. Because even when I was in the hospital, nearly dying, I'm still playing with my toys and laughing. And hey, you're going back for surgery. That would scare me. But overall, I had my toys and my music, and I was still good. But it's when life and people took over and started abusing me, whereas when I started to lose my humanity, and then when I became an adult, I started to resent society and people, because now like the older version of me is being protective of the younger version of me. And the young version, there's still that young, innocent, naive version of me in there that's like, oh, I just want to give everybody hugs, and I want to leave my door unlocked, and I want to do all these things that aren't you can't do anymore. But it's like I still have that part of me, but the older, more mature, wiser side of me is also on guard all the time, and wants to fight and wants to yell and scream at people, because I don't understand why you would abuse children, why you would abuse animals, why would you burn down nature, why would you lie and cheat and steal, but then on the flip side of that is like, not everybody's doing that, but you're still on guard to the people that are good, and you're not reading into signs that maybe they're good people.
Well, I think
Yeah.
you said something very, very important. And I'm not sure if you noticed it, but I did, because it's something that I write about extensively in my book, American Therapy. And that is that inside the perpetrator is a victim. You talked about how out of your own pain and your own victimization, you became angry. And that angry part of you wanted, had thoughts of hurting other people. You didn't do it, but
Sure.
some people do.
Oh, absolutely.
And it comes from the same place. And it's hard, I think it's hard for us as human beings to even want to understand that, because, the natural response to someone hurting another person or hurting a child is to be angry and possibly to, have really negative feelings toward them and maybe even want retribution. But I think we have to understand that inside that, someone who's loved, someone who's cared for, someone who's valued, someone who has role models of cooperation and peaceful conflict resolution and inclusivity of our differences. People who grow up like that don't want to hurt other people. It's from our pain. It's from our alienation. It's from violence that was perpetrated on us or ways that we have felt, made less than, that people want to hurt other people. And it is it's what you would call a normal response to an abnormal circumstance.
Sure.
And the more we understand that the impulse to hurt other people actually comes from injury of some kind, the more I think we have the possibility of interrupting that cycle of abuse and neglect in our society. Because really, we need to have a society that's dedicated to treating the victim inside the perpetrator.
Yeah.
And you're a wonderful example of someone who could identify that those impulses were in you, but you had enough mental health and awareness not to act on them.
Yeah.
And some people really don't. They're just so injured that they don't have that kind of awareness, and they do act out the pain that they're carrying around. And it's unfortunate for them, and of course it's unfortunate for the people that they hurt.
Yeah.
But it's one of the big reasons why I feel so strongly that our whole criminal justice system needs to be really revamped in terms of rehabilitation of people and helping people.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, as they say, like, hurt people. And for me, I was lucky. I was instilled with my dad when I was young. We kind of had a falling out. We kind of we repaired our relationship now, but at the time, when I was young, he showed me that guns were bad. So I had that in my head, but I still knew, like, there was, I still had this rage in me. That's why I went to, like, anger management when I was a kid, and certain things that my mom had, because she knew I was just angry, because I was just, life was kicking me around. I was a kid, and all of a sudden my eyes are gone, and people were throwing stuff at me. I even had teachers who made me sit in my own feces, and there was a lot of abuse that I know. I'm the worst case scenario, like, early on. And so I went through so much abuse, and I was, even at that time, I was still really like a sweet, innocent kid. And then just the older I got, the more I started to go, like, I started to care about girls, and I started to care about how I looked, because now people were like, oh, you're wearing short shorts, you have to wear, do this. And all of a sudden now I'm trying to impress everybody. But by doing that, I'm also doing whatever they wanted, and I'm still not being myself. And so I had the rage of someone who would want to shoot up a school. Because I had the understanding of, like, guns were bad. And the reality is I didn't really want to hurt people. I mean, I never wanted to hurt animals, because animals were, I had a love for animals. But like that young me was always still in there. It would have taken everything. Like, you would have had to hurt someone that I care about. But I probably would have never hurt people. That's why I eventually tried to end my life, because it was like, I didn't want to hurt anybody. I just wanted
you just wanted the pain to end.
Yeah,
right?
I wanted the thoughts. I wanted everything to just stop, because I couldn't deal with it anymore. Right. And that's why, when people say even suicide is like when they say that it's, what the hell, the word, my damn brain fog is kicking in my head, but they say it's basically weak for you to do it. And it's like, yes and no. I mean, it's because it's like, okay, if you choose to do it in front of your kids, or you do it so people are going to find you and whatever, I get it. Like, okay, maybe you're a piece of shit, but like, overall, when you don't know what someone is going through, you don't know what kind of pain they're in, and you just don't know how much life is overbearing. Like, you don't get it. You can't say someone's weak because they want to end their life, because it's taken everything for them. You know how long they've probably been struggling with this. And the reason they're doing it now is because
absolutely.
it's taken over.
Think about it. If we think about it, like, you have to be in enormous pain to want to end your life.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. And I totally agree with you. And that's part of the problem, is that we're so quick to judge other people. When we all have, there's not one of us that hasn't done something we regret, or, we're just all human, and we're all learning. And that's part of, the quickness to judge each other really blocks out a lot of the compassion that we really need to have for our human condition. We're in this together. We're all human. We're all fallible. We all have great strengths. We all have great gifts. We all have a contribution to make, and we also, are not perfect. And that's just being human.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things I've discovered more in the past year or so is, like, when I started to do the podcast, I never went into it. Like, I used to joke that I want to be like the disability Gandhi. Like, I used to joke about that, just like, I want to be this all-powerful guy that does all these amazing things. But the reality is, like, I don't really want that. I genuinely want to just be a part of a movement. I want to be someone who puts good energy into the world. I want to do my part in my own small way. Whatever comes from it, comes from it. But I at least want to go out as a fighter. I want to be known that I cared, and, I always tried to do more and thought bigger picture. And the one thing I kind of want to leave behind is I want to just, if I have to be one of the sacrificial lambs, like one of the people that actually, so it doesn't take so hard for someone to find a job with a disability, or how hard they have to go through school, or even how hard it is for them to be themselves. Like, I want to just be a role model, just an option where they can click on and go, hey, okay, this is a person who's doing it and thriving. Yeah, he's struggling. He deals with all these things, but he's still doing it, and he's making it look easier than it is. That's something. Like, I want to just be an example, and hopefully the next generation of people like me, and I don't necessarily mean like visually impaired or even disabled, just someone dealing with trauma and dealing with really harsh life experiences, their life is easier because of my sacrifices.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's, and I also think that's part of many people's healing process, is that you get to a place where you actually just really want to give because you've received. I think it's a natural, wonderful, loving human impulse that we just want to hold somebody else's hand along the way, and give back what has been so valuable to us. And I know that's why I wrote the book that I wrote, American Therapy, that I feel like I've learned so much as a client. I've learned so much as a psychotherapist. And, originally my book, I was going to call it Out of the Office and Into the World. And now it's the title of one of my chapters. But really, that was the impulse. Like, all this stuff is known in our psychotherapy offices, but it's not necessarily known to the general public. And why not make it public information that healing is possible? And these are the things that help us heal.
Yeah. And I want to add something to the very beginning of what you said. Not only as far as he's giving, is the reason why you want to give so much is because you've lost so much. Like, you know what it's like to lose. You know what it's like to hit bottom in multiple ways. Like, I've nearly, I was told, they told my mom to basically, prepare a casket. So, and I went out for a few seconds. They brought me back, whatever. And then I've also hit my bottom mental health wise. Again, attempted to kill myself. So, when you've hit bottom and you've lost in so many things, not only your innocence, but your childhood and just whatever, money, friends, family, people take things, you lose so much in life. My best friend died, you lose so much, and you don't want people to feel like that. And that's why I've been stressing a lot lately about, winning, and to win, to understand what winning is like, you have to lose. And you can use all the sports analogies you want, whatever, but like, you have to know what it's like to lose so badly that you never want to feel like that again. And you never want to have to endure that ever again. So you give everything you got so that life is different for you. And
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
I've been the bottom, there's times where I've been at the bottom and I've got halfway up the steps and fell right back down. And I'm like, my
Mhm.
God, this is awful. I thought I was almost there, and I wasn't even halfway. And
Mhm.
now I'm back at the bottom again
Mhm.
because I didn't do the things I didn't take the precautions I needed, and didn't appreciate the journey, and didn't understand even how far I had already gotten to. And now I'm back here again, and this feels worse than the first time, because now you feel like a failure because you're like, man, I haven't, like, how many, 5 years go by, whatever it is, and now I'm back here, like I haven't progressed at all, which you probably have, but it's hard to see that amongst all
Right.
the
Right.
wreckage.
Right.
And so that's the thing. It's just progressing in life, and that's why I always talk about. I say this ad nauseum, but the quicksand theory. It's like just constantly taking 2 steps forward and 1 step backward, and eventually it's going to be
Uh-huh.
3 steps, and then 4 steps, and 5 steps, and that one step. In this case for me is I have a day where I feel sorry for myself because I have had real trauma, I've had real PTSD, real things I've endured, and it's okay to take a day where you just go, you know what, this is my mental health day or whatever you want to call it, and I'm going to cry or I'm going to be angry, I'm going to feel sorry for
Mhm.
myself, and then
Mhm.
tomorrow I'm going to get back up and I'm going to smile and I'm going to persevere and I'm going to do this shit all over again.
Right.
And someday down the road I'm going to have another one of these days, and that's cool, but I'm now 5,
Right.
6, 10, 16 days ahead, and I'll have a step back every so often, but it's not like a giant relapse where it's like, oh my God, my whole life is set back and now I got to start from the beginning. It's just a little hiccup. That's all it is.
Yeah. I love that because I think for many people, and especially people who have been hurt by other people, maybe it's really hard to have compassion for yourself.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's so important to really cultivate compassion for yourself and allow yourself to be human and allow yourself to be fallible and then just get up and do it the next day. And I know that's a part of my life. Like there's a big inner critic in there that always wants to tell me, what I did wrong rather than what I did right. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that we need to give to each other. I mean, I know so many people that I've worked with over the years who really never got a lot of praise. What was pointed out to them was all the things that they didn't succeed at or didn't do well enough or whatever. That we're so quick to criticize each other, but affirmation and acknowledgement and really valuing each other's gifts is some of the best food we can feed each other.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and something I've talked about, especially with other people with disabilities, is how a lot of us, our ceilings are so low, so that it's like when we graduate high school, it's like, oh my God, you graduated high school? Oh my God, just simple, everyday, trivial things that everybody does. But the thing is, we do it with barriers. And so that when we
Right,
actually, so when I get, like, when I
right,
have my own apartment, which I do, I have my own apartment, I take care of myself, take care of my cat, and, I've financially, I wouldn't say I'm set for life, but I'm in a good place. And
yeah,
I also told you recently about losing my job and money got tight, and I'm way ahead of where I was before I even got fired now.
wow,
But it's like, to have my own place or to work, these are trivial things to the average person because it's like, well, duh, like everyone in my family has a job, everyone in my family has their own place. But it's like, yeah, but you didn't fight for every little thing you have. Like, you don't
right,
understand how long it
right,
took me to get all this.
right.
And so that's
Beautiful.
something that people like me struggle with, and I'm much better now, but something I've struggled with where it's like, man, okay, having my own place, is that a real, like, success? It is, I know now, but it's like, for a while, like, it was something I always wanted, to have my own place. Never even thought it was possible because I thought I'd always have to live off my mom or my grandma. And then I got
Mm-hmm.
it, and then I wasn't grateful because I'm like, who cares? Everyone else has one. But then I'm like, but you pay your rent every day. You still, for all the things you're enduring and all the things you still have to deal with on a daily basis. I mean, your eyes are constantly a problem, chronic pain and whatnot. And then you get up and you still shower. You still brush your
Yep.
teeth. You still feed yourself. You still take care of your cat. You still take care of yourself. You're still going out and helping other people while you're not even feeling like helping yourself. And that's the stuff I had to kind of, again, like I said, you kind of caught me at a good
Mm-hmm.
time in my life because I'm really in a place where I'm fully, I mean, I'm not fully, but I'm getting to a place where I feel like I can fully actually heal at some point because
Yeah.
I've taken a real look. Those 4 months of me being fired, I took a deep look into who I was and realized there was a lot of things that I was doing to myself that I had to just remove at once, just immediately, because I wasn't appreciating anything I was going through. And that's why when I finally kind of came to terms with that getting fired, I realized like it was the best thing that could have happened to me. And I needed it. And it was something that it was like, man, like this is all for a reason, and something else is coming. And I just started being more positive about who I was and what's going to happen. And even though that I had the obvious doubt of like, yeah, okay, good luck, this isn't going to happen. But even though, job interview didn't go well, or I wouldn't say go well, they all went fine, but I knew I wasn't getting the job, or just constantly never hearing back, I still kept this bright, this thought process of just upbeatness where I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to be good. I'm going to be good. And I'm like, oh, I think I'm healing. Like, I think I'm really understanding how strong I am. And I realize like, this is nothing. Like, yeah, you got fired. Yeah. Like it's gonna, tighten your money or tighten certain things. But at the end of the day, you still have a place to stay. You still have a decent, savings, and you've been through so much worse. This is just, I wouldn't say it, it is nothing, but it was, because I could have handled it poorly. You could play that out 10 other times, and who knows what would happen. But the way I handled it now in hindsight to look at it, I was like, I handled it perfectly. And it really kind of strengthened my bond with just myself and like my belief in who I am.
Well, I think, you're illustrating another really important point, and that is like, in this whole part of your story that you just told, you didn't focus at all on blaming the people who fired you. You focused on yourself. You said, I took a really good look at myself. I reflected on who I was and how I was being and what I needed to do. And I saw that I needed to have a more positive, upbeat attitude. And, and to me, that is such a important part of the healing process, is that we stay focused on on ourselves and learning, like, okay, what could I do differently? Or what could I be responsible for here? Or what is it I need to learn? Or what is it I need to change? And I think you really embodied all that in the part of your journey that you just shared. And it's such a great example because, societally, I think we're very conditioned to just externalize and blame other people for all the problems. And it's not that other people don't do things that aren't good sometimes or that are hurtful. It's not that they don't do that many people do hurt us. But ultimately, the healing process is something, if you're going to do it, it's like you taking charge of that process. And it sounds like you really did. And that's a very beautiful story.
I appreciate it. But don't get me wrong, I was super petty, and I don't get me wrong, I was not happy with my firing. But
of course not.
I took my shots.
But what I'm saying,
I know what you mean. Yeah. I know I'm being silly and facetious, but like, I mean, I took my shots, but at the same time, I had my things to say, but overall, it was. I've always said I'm at my best when I'm backed up against the wall, and that's when I usually make things happen. And it's like I was able to kind of compare and contrast certain things. Like, 'cause I always talk about how when doctors always ask me, like, what's your pain tolerance? And I always say, well, I have to say at least an 8 for you to even, take me serious because, whatever. But at the same time, I at one point had all my skin burn off, and that's a 30. But in comparison to what you're trying to take care of right now, it's probably a 2 in comparison to that. But again, I have to say at least an 8. And I did that with the same thing with being fired. It's like, okay, like there was a period of time where you didn't have a job and your mom was getting rid of the house, and you either had to move in with her and her boyfriend, or you had to, fight or flight. You had to do something about it. And I was way more immature. I had way less experience in life. This is about 9 years ago now. And I remember there was a job interview or job place up here opening where they hire people with visually impaired and blindness. And I contacted my uncle, and he gave me the, because him and my grandma live up here. And I said, hey, 'cause this is where I was born. And I said, hey, can you give me that number? I called them, started setting stuff up, and I said, Grandma, can I come up with you a couple of days? I want to, I got a job interview. And this is like 3.5 hours away from Philadelphia. So it's like, and this is where I've lived most of my life at that point in time. And I'm just like, okay, let's just go. I come down, I get the job interview. They said, basically, you can have the job. And now I have to figure out an apartment. And long story short, I was saying, look, at this point, you only have to get a job. And I'm talking about more current day, 4 months ago or 5 months ago now. I was saying, you only have to get a job. Last time you had to get a job, a place to stay, and you had to move almost 4 hours away. So this isn't so bad. Like, and you already have a place to stay, and you have people who care about you in case anything were to really get bad. But it's going to be a long time. It's going to be a few years before that would even really happen. And so really all you got to do is get a job. It's not going to be easy, but it's not going to be that. And so I just constantly compared it to the worst times, but I didn't want to just compare it to like when I was sick or whatever. Because that's obviously like right on the scale where it's like, okay, this is the worst time of my life. So that it's never going to compare to that. But I wanted to compare it to something very similar. And it's like, okay. And I was able to downgrade and completely just take it apart and just say, okay, this isn't so bad. And I was able to hang in there. And I had days where I was just like, oh, God. And, you don't hear anything for a few weeks and you start to get really stagnant and complacent and you're like, nothing's happening. Life is moving on without me and I'm doing nothing with my life. And then all of a sudden, boom, a job interview. And now they hire you on the spot. Right. And it's like, oh, now what? And so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think some of the healing work that you did enabled you to have perspective. Like you could put what was going on in perspective and you knew it wasn't the end of the world. And that helped you navigate it with more strength, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. And like I said, then I land into this place where everything that I thought I did wrong in the other place, the place where I fought hard for other people with disabilities and I went harder than I needed to sometimes, but I fought for myself. And there was days I doubted myself and said, maybe I am the problem. Maybe it's just because I'm, because it was made known that I'm, pretty much a hothead type of thing where I stand up for people. But there was a lot of egregious things that were said and done. And I kept fighting and kept fighting. And then when I won the unemployment appeal, when they didn't even bother to show up because they knew they didn't have a case, because I had all the evidence, I had everything on my side, it confirmed everything that I ever said and did. And it was a win not only for me, but it was for a lot of the people there that have been fired or people that are still there and being mistreated. And it confirmed everything. And it made me instill a lot. It helped all the things that I instilled in myself. And it really, put a spotlight on it and said, wow, okay, maybe you have something here. And, everything that you've been doing. And again, I was also able to look at that job and go, this is the job I needed to land this other job because I had to go through that. I had to endure that 8.5 years. And now I landed in a job that everything that I ever asked for, they've given me in those 8.5 years, they've given me at this new job in 4 weeks. And, and everything,
beautiful.
Yeah. And everything just kind of came together really quickly. And, but it was like I was also able to just look at it all and go, yeah, like I'm pissed. I'm mad that all that happened. But now I'm just letting it go. And it's like we can all move on with each other. The only thing I still hold a grudge against is there's still people I love there that are being mistreated. But other than that, I'm moving on with my life and I'm good with the whole situation. And again, healing.
Yeah, no, I love that perspective also because sometimes, some of the hardest experiences that people have, and this is definitely true for me as well, were there was learning that happened there that enabled me to move on to something better, and I think that's just part of the healing journey is that you spin straw into gold, whatever wasn't so great, if you can transform that, like you had those difficult years, but you strengthened your advocacy, for instance. You became a very strong advocate. And now you're in a place where that's valued. That's beautiful. That's a strength you have.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And I have my own beliefs and whatnot. Because I think a lot of people
lean into the whole God thing way too much, where it's like, well, God's just going to give me every little detail on how I'm going to go throughout my life. And a lot of times for me, God or whoever you want to say it is, I feel like a lot of times you're just tested and you're given options and you're told, hey, one or two things or 3, 4, 5 things can happen, but you're still, the head of the role playing here. Like, you're the person that controls this.
Right.
I'm going to give you certain things that are going to guide you along the way. I'm going to, whisper in your ear every so often, but in general, I'm going to put you to the test and you can fail or succeed. And maybe I'll bring these options up and down the road, maybe when you can handle them or whatnot, but I'm going to give you these doors. And right now you could go through A, B, C, or D. And A may get you to a bad place and C may get you to a good place. Or B, you stay the same or whatever. But you constantly test it. And now I feel like the reason why I've run into so many locked doors, because I always said that I see all these locked doors and I have all these keys, but I don't know which key goes to which door. And I'm starting to unlock the doors now and they're starting to open and I'm starting to see what's behind them because it's like, oh, okay, like I had them the whole time. And a lot of these things were certain things that were instilled in me through other people that came, in and out of my life or, just certain experiences I went through. And they were there. And, I had these tools in my toolkit and they were just like, what do I use this for? And then one day it comes and I'm like, oh, it looks like it fits in there. Now we're doing that. And it's like, again, it's just progressing and healing and evolving and, it's been a constant continuation, and now it's starting to, like, life is speeding up a little bit more now, where it's like, in a good way. I mean, I know life goes quick, but it seemed like I just kept getting concussed because I just kept running into doors that were locked and shut. I couldn't open them, and now it's like they're starting to open up because I think I'm starting to actually pursue things, and I'm actually, tapping into my superpowers and figuring out who the hell I am, and I'm not as afraid anymore to just sit there because I think you're giving tests and you could just sit there and just stay quiet and not do it. Like I got fired. I could have just said, hey Mom, can I live with you again? Give it all up and go completely backwards. And I did. And I said, no, we're going to find I'm not going to give up my apartment. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to find another job. So you could go back to old behaviors and completely just ruin all of what you've done. And that was never, and honestly, in my head, I was never even an option.
That's fantastic, and I think that's what happens. Is that I think the more that we heal some of those old wounds, our old default coping mechanisms they, like you said, they're just not an option anymore. You're going to keep going, and you did.
Yeah, and you keep looking at it like a game. This is a game you can't redo, and there's no redoing the levels. You're staying where you are. You can't go back to the doors that you've already gone through. So you're on to the next level. And for me, I feel like now I'm starting to constantly just get to the next level and the next level. And things slowed down a little bit, but it's just the beginning of this year, and I've only been at this job for a month and a half, and I've only begun to see kind of the beginnings of what this can become. And I wrote down these 8 goals in those 4 months. A couple of days in, I wrote down these 8 goals I would like to achieve in the next 4 years. I've already achieved one of them, and 6 of the other 7, I'm working on all of them simultaneously. Some of them are like cure brain fog and get into shape and things like that. And I'm working on all 6 out of the 7. The only one I'm not really working on is getting a new place, and that's just because that'll come in time, and but it's on my mind.
No, it's fantastic that you even are setting those goals and you're working toward them, because that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's just like I said, it's just a sudden, instantaneous belief in myself now where I didn't have. I would have never even, because I had to really look back and go, oh, you said you couldn't do any of these things and you did them all. So what's the problem here?
Right. Beautiful.
Stop making excuses why you can't do things, because you're just repeating that doubt that everyone's put in your head, or not everyone, but some people have put in your head, and you're just verbatim repeating those negative affirmations that have just always caused you to go backwards. And now you're still here, and it's like, what are you bitching about now? How much? Because there's days where I do, not to toot my own horn, but I have to look at myself and go why are you still smiling? How are you still moving?
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Why are you still fighting so hard?
Beautiful.
Because you don't need to. You could just turn it down a little bit. Because that's another thing I've also learned throughout this, is that I think it's people who are innately like super strong all the time. Sometimes we don't know how to turn that off. Sometimes we don't know how to
Uh-huh.
give in to
Uh-huh.
just, sadness, or give in to showing weakness at times, where it's like,
Yeah.
I'm hurting, and I'm, because I've always been a person where people put their problems on me, and I've warranted that. I always wanted that to happen because I'm that kind of dedicated, loyal friend or whatever, boyfriend, whatever, son. And but a lot of times my own problems just take over, and it's hard for me to just kind of give in and just say, hey, all you people that I've dedicated my life to, I need you now. Because today's the
Mm-hmm.
day where TJ gives in and cries, or punches a pillow or whatever, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed, and life is
Yeah.
just is kicking me in the ass, and I need to vent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because
Well, you're certainly a great testimony to practicing what you preach. I think
yeah,
that's really beautiful.
I
Yeah.
try. Yeah, that's like I said, kind of the earlier about the inner struggle with the young, naive version, with the older, wiser, but angry, bitter me. I try to deal
Right.
with those inner struggles because, like I said, I see people go through things on a daily basis in life, and I just it breaks my heart, because it's like, man,
Yeah.
like, why?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand, and I'm not even like a huge kid person. I don't have kids myself, whatever. But it's like, why would you abuse a kid? Why would you abuse a dog or a cat?
I
Or
know.
why would you do any of these things? Like, I don't like. There's another set of like, evil. There's a deep, dark thing that's in people. But that's another thing that I've also been able to understand, and why I don't judge people when they do, no matter how heinous
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
atrocities that they
Yeah.
commit. I
Yeah.
understand how I could have been a kid who shot up a school.
Well, that's
The right.
what we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier, that it comes from pain. It doesn't come from evil. It comes from pain.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. And but
Well,
that's.
I have to wind down soon, but I have
Yeah,
really
sure.
enjoyed talking to you and hearing your story, and sharing with you some of mine. And I think you're a great advocate for what you're doing because you've been there, and you're still on your own journey, and you're sharing that with other people. And I think that's just very inspiring and wonderful.
I appreciate that. I hope I didn't hijack your episode too much. I
No,
realize that.
no, no, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
You're
I
good.
appreciate it.
You're good.
But
Yeah,
can you please, promote whatever you have to promote, because I want.
please. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the best way to find me is on my website, which is my name, Phyllis Levitt, and it's PhyllisLevitt, and it's www.phyllislevitt.com.
Mhm.
And my website right now is pretty much devoted to my new book, America in Therapy. And I would love it if any of your listeners want to sign in for my newsletter or contact me if you have other questions or you just want to talk. Excuse me. I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram, and I have lots of videos of different talks I've given on YouTube, again, under my name, Phyllis Levitt. And yeah, my new book is called America in Therapy. It's available now on, any place where you buy books, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and any of the other booksellers. Uh, and and I hope your listeners will check it out and buy a copy and see how we can bring some of this healing to our country.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, just kind of wrapping up here. What is your like main goal, or the thing that you want to get across with your latest book?
Yeah, yeah. I think my main goal is for people to really understand that it's our psychology, it's our mental health that's really hurting this country. It's because mentally healthy people don't shoot each other up. They don't threaten harm. They don't alienate other people or ostracize them or hate them or withhold resources from them. It's our mental health that causes, it's our failing mental health that causes so much human suffering in the world. And we see so much evidence of that today with, the overt wars that are happening and, tens of thousands of people being killed who are innocent, who have nothing to do with anything, and they're just collateral damage to someone else's aggression. And for me, it's heartbreaking. It's frightening. But also here at home in America, we have rampant discrimination. We don't have equal opportunity. People need housing. They need access to better medical care. They need better wages. They need better resources for disabilities. We need to stop some of the injustice that happens to people of alternative sexual orientation, or women, or children. I mean, the list goes on. And all of these are signs. We've sort of been led to believe that these are ideological issues, and that one party stands for this and another party stands for that, and and they do to some extent. But the healing isn't in one party beating out the other, or one point of view beating out another, any more than in a relationship. Healing takes place by one person beating out the other. Healing in a relationship happens when people come together and they listen deeply to each other, and they develop empathy for each other, and they work with the ways that they want to have conflict, and they overcome them for the sake of restoring the relationship and providing cooperation and respect for one another. And we need that in our country. We need that kind of psychological health where the parties, can stand for whatever they want to stand for, but where they could role model sitting down, let's just say in Congress, and listening to each other's point of view and trying to reach some kind of agreement for the sake of the whole populace, rather than fueling division and hatred and violence and such angry rhetoric that just hurts people and denies our basic shared humanity, which I think we really all have. And then I'll just say this quickly, that because I've been thinking about this a lot, that if we were really going to bring mental health to this country, on a grassroots level as well as on a large-scale political level, we would invest our resources in families, in child care, in better wages, in better jobs, and all the things that families need, like better education for their children, and housing, and health care, and all the things that I've mentioned, and a restorative approach to criminal justice. Because it's in our families that we learn how to cope most of all. So if we invest in having healthy families, we're going to invest in a healthy citizenry. And that, my hope is that will mushroom out into us electing leaders who actually have people's best interests at heart and not just their own. So I just see an investment in mental health. For instance, on all those levels, make therapy, family therapy, individual therapy, child therapy, make that nationally funded instead of funding weapons of mass destruction. We could have a different world. And I really think we could have a different world. And I want to see us have a different world. That's why I wrote my book, American Therapy. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for coming on. I hope we can keep in touch, stay friends, and
for sure.
Whatever you need, I'm around. You need a friend or whatever, you can text or call me anytime. So, again.
Well, thank you. And thank you for doing what you're doing, because I know it's a great service to many people.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So thank you again. I appreciate your time, right, and we'll talk soon.
You too. Take care.
Right,
bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. We are outie. Bullet? No, he notices me, but he doesn't want to speak. He's up in his cat tree, his little castle. He's on his throne, so he shan't be speaking. But yeah, good conversation. Really appreciated her time, and hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I always never know where, or how this is all gonna play out, because I do wing it so much, and I take a huge risk, because also I'm dealing with my brain fog, and I don't know these people. But I put a lot of trust and faith in them that everything's gonna come out okay, and I pick up on vibes, and I really haven't had really any bad incidences other than maybe one, and it just went off the rails for no reason. But one day I might put that episode out, but I don't know if I should, just because of getting in trouble with it. But what happens if they hear it one day and then they sue or whatever, and because I don't have any contractual thing behind the scenes, so I don't know if I'll ever put it out. But it went wrong, and it didn't need to. because it's not an argumentative show. But anyway, just stay positive here. I just appreciate you all very, very much. I'm recording this in January, so it's like some of these things I'm talking about, so job-related stuff, it's like I don't know, I don't know how relevant it'll be then. Obviously, I plan on still be working there, but, things will probably have changed. So that's the problem with recording so far ahead. But anyway, guys, I genuinely love everyone that supports the show. The rest of you I hate. Kidding, of course. No, I'm very grateful. There's Bullet. Bullet, come here. I'm fine. People just think you don't like me because you're just ignoring me. I know you hear me. I'll turn your fountain on in a minute. I just didn't want people to think I'm peeing or you're peeing in the background. Okay? Why don't you hear me, boy? Boy. All right, now we really are going off the rails. All right, everyone. I appreciate you. I will see you next week, and please take care of yourself. And I know times are really tough around this time of year. Going into the next year, people really are trying to find themselves and hoping to God it's going to change. But you wake up and it's just another day. So hang in there, please. Find something to be that you grasp onto that can keep you going. Please hang in there. We're all rooting for you. All right, y'all. I'll see you next week.